Welcome everyone. Thanks for joining our webinar about navigating sustainability risks, a practical guide on the what, how and why of materiality and counter risk assessments. My name is Karin Ekberg and I'm the CEO and founder of Leadership and Sustainability, a company with focus on sustainability in the textile and consumer goods sector. Since we started 7.5 years ago, we have grown to a team of more than 50 experts worldwide. We are present in many countries such as Germany, where we are based, Bangladesh, Bulgaria, China, Egypt, India, Indonesia, Pakistan, Portugal, Romania, Tunisia, Turkey, and Vietnam. And our two main streams of services are related to materiality and strategy, reporting, carbon footprinting, and greenhouse gas services on the one hand, and supply chain services and audits, trainings on the other hand. We are a member of SAC, Sustainable Apparel Coalition, and offer many of the SAC index services, HIG-FEM, FSLM, and BRM verifications, among many other services. And today I'm joined by my colleagues, Janne Tesch and Sophia Wolf. The three of us are working in our strategy team here in Germany and are happy to take you through our webinar today. And you will hear more from Janne and Sophia very soon. In today's session, we will start with defining the terms materiality assessment and counter risk assessment. Secondly, we will talk about the why behind these assessments. And then we will would like to briefly explain our approach and method to you. And towards the end of the webinar, we will have time to discuss any questions you might have. We will send out this slide deck after the webinar and will also record this session. And you are all muted in order to ensure good audio quality. If you have questions, you can send them via the Q&A box. Please don't use the chat function. And you can send off your questions as we go, but we will focus on responding to the questions towards the end of the webinar. So let us begin with the what. What is a materiality assessment? Well, a materiality assessment is a powerful tool to analyze and identify sustainability, environmental, social, and governance risks and opportunities across the entire value chain. It allows to derive material hotspot risks and opportunities for your company or organization. And the materiality assessment is about understanding your present situation so that you then can manage your risks and opportunities and develop your sustainability strategy. A counter risk assessment is similar. However, it does not focus on a company's value chain, but its sourcing countries. A counter risk assessment enables a company to gain a better understanding of sustainability related risks of the different countries it operates in. General counter risks and company-specific risks are considered, and here we dive deeper into the specific conditions in the countries that are relevant for you. And now we would like to give you an overview of the purpose and reasoning behind these assessments. A materiality assessment can help you to prepare for legal compliance and future legislation. This ensures that you can build the system you need in order to ensure legal compliance. Identify risk drivers and opportunities, risk for accidents, risk for financial losses, risk for your brand and reputation, etc. And similarly, we also cover opportunities. Opportunities are the upside of risks and should, of course, be considered as well. Every so often, we hear only about risk management. We think that this leads to a compliance mindset, which is not a modern approach to sustainability at all. Opportunities can be related to energy and cost savings, for example, a better reputation and thereby market position, and so much more. And now you can set the basis for a further sustainability strategy decisions, and of course, gain an external perspective on sustainability actions and measures of your role as a brand, retailer, or supplier. And a counter risk assessment can help you to also prepare for legal compliance and possible future legislation, identify risk drivers and opportunities but in a specific country this time, derive hotspot implications for further deep dives of supply chains, and also to gain deeper understanding of your supply chain and the specific country risks that you may need to manage. Perhaps even your supply chain specific risks, let's say assessing one specific product or material supply chain, even in a specific country. And then improve transparency as it is a part of supply chain mapping. And we would like to highlight some legislative requirements that are directly and indirectly covered by a materiality as well as a counter risk assessment. Nowadays, companies are operating in a growing legislative landscape, and more companies are affected by a growing number of regulations. Related to our topic of materiality, we wish to mention that there are several supply chain due diligence acts with specific requirements, and they may be applicable to your company or organization as well. And finally, we have the European Union Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive as well. In general, there is a new precedent for global supply chains and legal regulations of those supply chains. The slide shows some examples of supply chain policies that are already in effect or will be in effect in the next years. With these legislative requirements, more and more companies are affected directly through legislative regulations or indirectly as requirements are passed down from large companies to the next level. And this makes it crucial for companies to implement sustainability measures and assessments in order to meet these requirements. These regulations requires organizations to conduct materiality assessments specifically. And with this slide, we would like to give you an overview of how the materiality and counter risk assessment help meeting the demands from the European Union Supply Chain Act, directly or indirectly through setting a basis for the next step. The EU Supply Chain Act requires companies to understand how their business impacts people and the environment. And with the assessments, a company can map its impact areas, undertake a risk assessment, and it helps to set a basis for sustainability strategy development and target setting. And the EU Supply Chain Act requires companies to take action to make improvements. With the assessments, a company can prioritize actions needed in different supply countries, and the assessment, for instance, help to understand where to review contracts or purchasing practices, and thus where to make improvements. And the EU Supply Chain Act requires companies to measure their impacts on people and the environment. And with the materiality assessment, this is exactly what we are doing. But we do not only have legislation related to supply chain, but also related to reporting. The CSRD, the European Union Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, was adopted in December 2022 and came into force in January 2023, on the 5th of January. And here we illustrate the CSRD in a similar way as previously. So CSRD requires companies to report in an integrated report on environment, social, and governance. The materiality assessment helps you to prepare for the report and map your impact areas. The report now must be a part of the financial report and cannot be a standalone report anymore. You're also required to report on double materiality. Double materiality means that both the impacts of the activities of the undertaking on people and the environment, as well as how sustainability matters are affecting the undertaking in financial terms, are reported about. The materiality assessment itself, as outlined in this presentation, includes the concept of double materiality. However, we should also underline that the concept of double materiality is described in slightly different ways depending on the source, so it's a bit of an evolving concept. The CSRD also requires the corporation to use third-party assurance providers for their report. And so, how is this done? Janne and Sophia will now go through the process of conducting the assessments. First, Janne will explain the process of a materiality assessment, and then Sophia will talk about the counter risk assessment. Over to you, Janne.
Thank you, Karin. Yes, I would like to briefly explain to you how we conduct the materiality assessment. In the first step, we define the individual value chain of a company. Then we select applicable sustainability impact categories for the analysis with a social and environmental and a governance focus. After these two steps, we then conduct a detailed materiality assessment with a scoring system, which is based on a qualitative-quantitative approach. Thus, we work with a numerical scoring system and also incorporate qualitative insight. As previously mentioned, we assess your sustainability risks as well as opportunities. Let me go deeper into the different steps. With the first step, the value chain approach, we make sure that sustainability risks and opportunities are not selectively assessed within one company department, but we focus on your entire business activities. Normally, we include management and strategy, your company's support functions, your supply chain tiers, logistics, marketing, and also we sometimes consider the use phase and end of life. In the second step, we then jointly select the impact categories. This allows the company to set a specific focus and to be taken along on the whole process. The method is thus adapted to the individual needs of the company. We can cover social, environmental, chemical, product-specific governance, and more topics. Social topics might cover, for example, forced labor or working conditions, and environmental topics could, for instance, mean energy, waste, or water scarcity. In the most crucial, the third step, then the evaluation within the materiality assessment is carried out by us, the leadership and sustainability team, in collaboration with the client's teams. To conduct it, we interview company employees. These employees are normally from different departments within the company in order to reflect the value chain approach and to gain detailed and useful insight. We also look at documents like company policies or code of conduct and collect an overview of utilized certifications, as these details help us to understand your individual measures used in order to react to and thereby mitigate sustainability risks. In addition to that, we also include our industry expertise and scientific papers in order to have a diverse perspective on risks and opportunities resulting from your business activities. We are always in close contact with the company's product team, which is usually the CSR department. After having conducted a detailed analysis of the sustainability risks and opportunities along your value chain, hotspot topics are derived in the next step. Usually, the detailed assessment is used for sustainability experts, as it reflects your sustainability risks and opportunities on a granular level. The hotspot matrix is a summarized high-level sustainability risks and opportunity representation, which gives a good picture without an overload with detail. This hotspot matrix can eventually be used to navigate your sustainability risks and opportunities, as these represent your current status from which you can derive measures and next steps. Yes, on this slide, you can see a screenshot of an example hotspot matrix, and please be aware that these numbers are only fictive. As previously explained, this hotspot matrix is a result from a more detailed assessment, which is not shown on this slide. Here you just see the end result, the hotspot matrix, summarizing the detail. On the left side, you see example impact categories. For instance, you can see raw materials, animal welfare, or waste. Here you do not see any social or governance categories, but these would be included as well, depending on your assessment focus. And on top, you see the different value chain segments: management and strategy, design, procurement, and so on. These would be specified to your individual value chain. And hotspot risks are represented from a scale of 1 to 3. 1 means the risks are small. 3 means the risks are significant. The risks that we assess represent brand risks, financial risks, and the impact your company has through its operations. For example, significant risks, thus a 3, in management and strategy related to raw materials could mean that your company sources, for example, leather as a raw material. This type of raw material, in general, is a high-risk material. The impact of a company using leather is really high. Let us assume that the assessed company sells leather handbags, but does not have any certifications, policies, or other measures in place that, for instance, consider any more sustainable sourcing practices for leather. Thus, a significant risk would be the result, a 3. And the hotspot matrix also shows opportunities. Here, a 3 respectively stands for significant opportunity, and a 1 means small opportunity. As Karen has already mentioned, the assessment of opportunities is a crucial element of our materiality assessment method, as sustainability also can have positive implications by, for example, helping to develop innovations, improve reputation, and so on. All in all, at the end of a materiality assessment process, you will have a scorecard helping you understand your most significant sustainability risks and opportunities along your value chain. This scorecard can be used for a basis for further sustainability strategy development, action plans, and decision-making regarding, for example, certification and audit. Now that you have gained an overview of the how of a materiality assessment, let me hand over to Sophia to explain the country risk assessment method.
Thank you, Janne, for handing over and for giving this overview of the materiality assessment method. I'm going to explain you the process of the country risk assessment a bit more. The country risk assessment is also based on a qualitative-quantitative approach, just as the materiality assessment. In the first step, you can choose countries and sustainability impact categories of the assessment. In the second step, the cross-country risks of those impacts categories are assessed, which are more general country risks. And in the next step, we then assess your net country risks, which are your company-specific remaining risks, which you should work on and which you should manage. When conducting a first country risk assessment, we encourage to focus on your own production sites and your direct suppliers, where you have, as a brand, have the most operational control and can therefore exert the greatest influence on changes. And of course, you can choose those impact categories which you want to assess. These can be similar to the impact categories of a materiality assessment and can include subcategories of all 3 sustainability pillars, such as working conditions, use of chemicals, corruption, GHG emissions, for example, or any other categories which you wish to include. In the assessment phase of the cross-country risk assessment, we rely on trustworthy information from international public as well as governmental sources, such as the textile risks expert system, the corruption index published by Transparency International, the World Animal Protection Index, or the CSR risk check tool. In this way, we can generate a holistic overview of the potential country risk areas and see where you can work on. By taking into account the preventive measures already implemented by your company, the resulting net risks are identified in the next step. With the help of audits, certifications, the implementation of suppliers' code of conduct or other on-site visits, companies sometimes already ensure that social and environmental standards are upheld in some of their sourcing and production sites. Therefore, they are able to reduce the current gross risk in some of the assessed social and environmental categories in the corresponding countries. And we do this last step of the assessment in close exchange with our client's project team, which is usually the CSR team, to find out about the preventive measures in place and to take them into account in our assessment. In general, the country risk assessment will help to gain a transparent overview of your supplier countries and helps to understand which risks should be prioritized for mitigation and prevention measures. In addition to that, country risk assessment methods and materiality assessment methods, we also offer supply chain specific studies which address specific risks, for example, in silk production supply chains or cotton production supply chains, for example, for China. And of course, we have also the expertise and resources to respond to individual requests and to set up a customized assessment framework which fits your needs. Now I will hand over again to Janne.
Thank you, Sophia. We would like to summarize the key takeaways of today's session, as we know that sometimes such an information can put overload on you. That's why we want to summarize the key takeaways. A materiality assessment and country risk assessments help to utilize a method that is effective and insightful, as it will give you a clear picture on your current sustainability status. It helps to understand your most significant opportunities and risks related to sustainability, as the hotspot will give you a summarized overview. The assessments can help you to prioritize your next step for mitigation or measures, as the results will show you your biggest gap. They help to create more transparency. And with the assessment, you automatically begin to reflect about your business and purchasing practices. It might give you new ideas and fresh wind for change. You will also meet legislative requirements. You can reduce your sustainability impact country by country. And all in all, it helps you to navigate your sustainability risks and opportunities. We would now like to give you the opportunity to ask any open questions you might have through the Q&A function. I will hand over to Karin to take over the discussion. You are still on mute, Karin.
Thanks. Thank you so much, Janne and Sophia. And now we open up for questions. So do you have any questions related to this presentation? Please send them in the Q&A box. There are no questions yet. Yes, here we have someone. Hello. Did you have a question? Yes, please explain the double materiality. And yes, so the double materiality stems from the reporting directive. So we had the non-financial reporting directive previously from the European Union, and now with the corporate sustainability reporting directive, we have the amendment to that previous directive. And here now the concept of double materiality has been introduced. And the idea is really that you have a view both of the sustainability impacts and the impacts that sustainability factors have on the company in financial terms. So, for example, if you have a very significant risk that may, where you might cause, for example, soil and groundwater contamination in one of your factories, and due to that soil and groundwater contamination, you would have costs of, let's say, 2 million euro on an annual base for the next 10 years. Then this could be a financial impact. That is then the second part of the double materiality. So in short, looking at both sustainability and financial terms for the materiality. Yeah. And then would you recommend carrying out a risk assessment per commodity or per supply chain? Yes, this depends very much on what you are looking for and what your focus, where you would like to have your focus, where you believe you may have your risks. So it really depends if you can go by commodity or if you would like to focus really on a specific even product supply chain. We have conducted mainly commodity risk assessments, where we looked at one commodity, for example, in a specific country, and then we have analyzed that specific supply chain for the commodity. And here another question, I may have missed your comment here. How long does a double materiality assessment take for the first time? Well, usually it takes at least 2 to 3 months. It depends a bit on how much information you have available at first, and how long the process is to collect the information from your organization, how long it takes to define the detailed matrix. You saw the matrix that we have, where we define the value chain, we define the different impact categories. But I would say expect at least 2 to 3 months and up to 4 to 5 months. And who are the key stakeholders you target to gather information in your materiality assessment? Well, mainly we work with the team, with let's say the sustainability team and the different business functions in an organization, because they know a lot about what the supply chain looks like, what their products look like. They also know a lot about what their stakeholders think about their process. They know from different campaigns, perhaps, that NGOs have started against them, let's say, or that they have initiated in requesting information from the company. So we get very, very far with the internal stakeholders. Then obviously we rely also on our own expertise and experience from many different types of supply chain, and specifically over the past 15 years now in the textile supply chain and in the value chain. But also what we sometimes do, we also sometimes conduct stakeholder engagement and consultations, and via questionnaires, or we can also conduct live interviews. What I think is very important is when you include external stakeholders, that is that you are very specific about the questions you have to the external stakeholders. I don't think personally, but this is really my personal opinion, I don't think it adds so much value to go out and say, okay, here I am company so-and-so, and I would like to know if you think that water withdrawal is the most important environmental, or if climate change is the most important impact category for us. Because stakeholders will speak from their perspective, what are the most important impact categories, but they may not take into account what your company is actually doing, what type of business model you have. And therefore, I would prefer to first conduct the materiality assessment with the resources at hand, and then go out and ask for feedback from external stakeholders to the materiality assessment, or even combine it with the development of the strategy or a draft strategy, and then collect that information, because then you have a lot of information to give to the stakeholders, and you can also ask specific questions, and they have a lot of specific information that they can relate to and respond to. And yes, and then the next question, I assume that what you presented is your internally developed approach to how a materiality assessment can be conducted. How have you confirmed or approved your tool, and or by which recognized body? Yes, Janne, would you like to respond to this question? Or shall I?
You can go ahead, thank you.
Okay, Janne. Yes, really, really good question. So this, yes, it's correct. This method was developed internally by myself, actually 20 years ago, to be honest. And then we have further refined it and built it out further over the past years. And there is no bureau or office that can, approve of this method. But as I mentioned before about the double materiality concept and about the CSRD, the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive came into force only in January this year. And there are lots of specific regulations that need to be defined and criteria that needs to be defined in order for companies to comply to this regulation. And one of the tools that are now being developed is actually a guideline for a materiality assessment that should then comply to the CSRD. This is a document that is available by EFRAG, and it is only, as far as we know, in a draft version right now. But we have refined our method to be aligned with the current draft guideline. So I hope that answered your question. It was a bit of a long-winding response. And then Wilson, hello, I'm Wilson from Shenzhen, China. What difference is it between general health and safety risk assessment and counter risk? Yeah, so a health and safety risk assessment, if you say just like that, you need to define what is the scope of that assessment. So what are the boundaries of what I'm investigating? Is it a specific factory? Or is it more related to the general health and safety risks that we have in a country or in a specific sector? So I think the main difference is the scope of the assessment that you do. Is it a factory? Is it just it can be also a machine, as you know? Is it a group of factories? Is it a company, or is it a counter risk assessment? Or as Jan explained, the materiality assessment in general, where we look at the specific value chain segments of an organization. Yeah. And okay, thank you. Great. Then we have someone from Bangladesh. Hello. And here we have one more comment. The assessment process is very robust and solid. The findings of each assessment must be very interesting and useful. Do you publish any report or database with the findings of the assessment? No, we don't. We have so far always worked for corporations or organizations in conducting these types of assessments. And so it's their then proprietary ownership of the results. However, several of our clients, they also publish a sustainability report where they also report about their materiality risks and opportunities. But we ourselves, we do not publish anything else than what we are now speaking about at this level. Good. But thanks for the question. Any other questions? No more questions? I will give you another minute to send us your questions. All right. Then I thank you so much for the questions that you have contributed with, and I hope that we were able to respond to them. And I thank you also for joining this webinar. It has been great to spend some time with you. And here you can see the three of us again and our contact details. You can also see where you can visit our website. And of course, if you're interested in hearing more about materiality assessments, about strategy projects, or about any other project, we are happy to respond to any questions you have or interest. We can set up bilateral calls to discuss. And so just send us an email. You are welcome to do that. And then here on our final slide, you can see some of our team members, probably around half of the team globally. You can see our contact details as well. And with that, I thank you so much again and hope to see you soon again. And goodbye for now.
Goodbye.